lucky speaking in speech. You usually speak for only like 7 minutes, and for me speaking for 1 hour, I'm just afraid that you guys see me as dumb somewhere somehow. And this is what I do when I'm nervous. I throw unimportant, garing joke, which is probably why my Twitter and Instagram name is such. But go on, without any further ado, I would probably really like to, give an example specifically in terms of scoring. But it's going to be depend on whether or not there will be any requests. Feel free to, deploy your questions and whatnot in any means that is available for you, or just, yeah, I think that's all. As for right now, it's about to be Azan. I hope it wasn't that disturbing for the sound quality. Yeah, I'm starting with this because I'm going to give credit mainly to these three briefing, because nothing is new under the sun. Even all of my knowledge related to debating, coaching, and also judging, I owe it to EDS UGM. I grew up and was nurtured and was trained to EDS UGM. I might be biased, but I don't care. EDS UGM with its very systematic and just amazing training allows me, a nobody in a high school. I'm not saying that I'm somebody right now, but I'm just seeing that a leap of progress. So this is the credit mainly from NUDC, Akbar, Devi, Jane, Upi, Judy. You guys are super amazing. I really like the slides, very informative. For the AP standard, I take it out of 7th Oldham Cup, who also derived a lot of their points and also substances from WSDC briefing, WUDC 2021 judging manual, very, very good and thorough manuals with lots of examples also, amazing individuals whose name I'm afraid I mispronounce, so I don't mispronounce, but Korea WUDC 2020 Education Core, you guys are amazing. In the guide, they also attach with the outer shape of the manual. Just give credit when the credit is due. I think that's all. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 6 things here. You guys can read it. But I think what's going to be unique here is in terms of preparation. Despite the slide will only going to be 1 or 2 slides, but I'm going to talk a lot in terms of preparing an adjudicator who are aiming or about to enter an accreditation test. What is important as a mean of preparations for you guys in order to get an accreditation. I remember that my first accreditation is IVET ITB 2010. Yes, I'm that old, guys. Shut up. I'm not gonna say that I was lucky to immediately get an A accreditation, but I was just saying that it's not out of nowhere and it's not luck. It's out of hard work. As a coach, I always tell my kids that the secret of a good speech is not that an individual is smart. Well, Satrio Pratama probably is, but it's not that a mere intelligent or a mere English ability. But the secret of speech is what you do before that, your research, your preparations. I'm a strong believer that victory loves preparation. So prepared. And if you don't prepare anything and you get a bad accreditation, you shouldn't be angry at the A4 or the chair scoring you, because it's your own fault. I think starting with the debating system is important because different debating system require different style of adjudicating. Specifically BP and also the 3-on-3. I'm going to focus on that. Some of you probably already know the differences, but I'm going to use the optic of adjudicator in seeing how to observe and what is the distinct and unique demand required by each parliamentary system. First of all, I'm going to talk about British parliamentary system that is used in several competition in Indonesia, such as NOVAT, AAO, but most importantly, the competition that becomes the aim and also the goal of all Indonesian debater and UDC. Four teams in the round competing against each other. Very important notes for the adjudicator. Well, the other you can read it. Your main focus in adjudicating British parliamentary is creating a comparison of four different teams. In a recent development, actually the style and also the structure of how you start your comparison is less important than the clarity. Some style uses the fourth to first. I personally like to do that too. My personal style of giving verbal in British parliamentary system, I started with explaining why the fourth team got fourth, comparing the fourth with third, second, and first. Some other adjudicator like the style of first to fourth. The recent development, the OA goes to chronologically. So I see Lofros from, I hope I don't mispronounce your name, dude. I'm so sorry. But in one of the adjudication, the OA was chronologically. It goes something in the line of the opening government enter the debate by providing an analysis of this and that. The problem with this analysis is this, not only that this is problematic, but OO also upon entering the debate says this. So that's an example of chronological. What is the best method? As I said, structure doesn't matter wherever you start, as long as one, it's clear. Number two, you are as fair as possible. For me personally, I like to start from fourth because I because I think I'm a debater too, and when you lose, you need a lot more justification in order to give a contentment, to console you, to give you more explanation why you get fourth. That's why I started with fourth. Again, it's up to you, as long as you are clear and as long as you're fair. So it's important to note, it's important for an adjudicator to know what are the main roles of a team, but roles alone, remember, in any system, in any adjudication, there is no automatically losing. Just because one team did not do their role, all of a sudden you say that this is a fourth ranked team. No, but paying attention on the role will going to really help you to understand the technique, the technicalities of debate, because debate is a very technical sport. It's not like some freestyle you can just argue or create a random analysis. You cannot just be impolite. You cannot just, it's not about like raising your voice and whatnot, especially under the current equity standard and equity regulation, which is really, really good. So knowing the role, knowing how that the system structure rise, I think it's very important. I'm not going to talk too much about this. The PPT is going to be distributed anyway. Speaking orders, general knowledge, Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Deputy Prime Minister, Deputy ELO, Government Member, Opposition Member, Gov Whip, Up Whip. Now let's talk about 3-on-3 system. What is the, when I'm talking about 3-on-3 system, it's either Asian Parliamentary or WSDC system. Now in a 3-on-3 system, what's important for you to do, the main focus of adjudicator is to analyze the classes of the debate with the functionality of these classes. What is classes? Classes is basically you see the main contention of what is going on in the debate. And because 3-on-3 are a continuation, usually it's unlike BP that the argument and analysis cut off in like 2 speakers. But in Asian parliamentary, usually the analysis are developing throughout the one team. That's why it's important for you to take notes on what is the specific, more specific topic. specifically, more specific topic, specifically, whatever. Specifically, what becomes the major contention. So the main contention, that's the class. What is being contested, the type of topic, the type of question needed to be answered. Classes can be in so many forms. It will going to help if only your classes is not just, my first class is on the justification point, my second class is on the in the practical impact and whatnot, but it will help. It will help you if your classes is much more specified. For example, my first class we're going to discuss the first class of the debate is the contention on what actually is the interest of feminist movement. So rather than my first class is on the justification and later on you explain that the justification is the interest of feminist movement, just go right away straight to the point, to the main question, be detailed. It will help. It will help both you in analyzing and observing the debate, you in creating a clearer OA, and it also helps the adjudicator to keep on track and follow where your analysis is going, where your comparison is going. This is the speaking order. Government team speaking first, but a very important note in a reply speakers, the main different, one other main difference in 3-on-3 system is that in 3-on-3 system, we know reply speakers or reply speeches. In reply speeches, it started off with opposition reply and government reply. Note that the reply speakers time each are only 4 minutes. Therefore, it also translates into their speaker scores are only half of the substantive speeches. Very important notes. Also, semuanya aja important. Okay. Note here in terms of scoring reply speeches. So those who can perform or who can deliver a reply speech are only first and second speaker. So either the prime, the leader, or the deputies. Now, the way you score the opposition reply, it's not like, for example, prime minister delivering government reply, the prime minister's substantive speeches was, let's say, 78, and you just decided that the prime minister's speaker score for reply will going to be 39. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a two different speech. You need to listen to both carefully and thoroughly, and it is possible that a 78 substantive speech can deliver a 35 only reply speech, or the other way around, and only a 74 substantive speech all of a sudden can deliver a 39 or even a 40 reply speeches. So score and judge the substantive speech and reply speaker differently, although it's stated that reply speech's score is half of the substantive speech, but it does not translate into it's half of that speaker score when the speaker delivering substantive speech. Now, as I said, prepping for accreditation. What I very regret that a lot of team upon entering competition only catering the practice for the need of the team without probably giving a chance for the adjudicator to practice their OA, to practice for accreditation. Meanwhile, it actually is also very important. Again, your and one adjudicator, it's not some accessory you tag along, so just so your team can break. And one is also very important, specifically in a huge competition. As you know, as the new pool of good adjudicator to perform or to adjudicate in the out round. The out round is in the elimination round. So treat that role as important as the debater. So also practice, so also prepare for both the institutions, the team, and the about to be accredited adjudicator. What do you need to prepare for preparations in here? Number one, I think it's important for you to do a listening practice You can either do it by yourself or with someone else. It's up to you. What type of listening practice that I meant? Find debate videos online. It's available in YouTube, Facebook. You can go around, easily Googleable, search for a competition and whatnot. Now, what you need to practice in the listening practice is practice taking notes, because some speakers, or especially for you who hasn't been habituated yet with adjudicating a debate, can tend to feel that the speaker speaks really quick, very, very fast. And for some people, it goes to the line that it is uncomprehensible. They think that it is incomprehensible and whatnot. Meanwhile, it is not. It does. The reason why speaker in debate speaking really quickly, because we have time constraint. I don't have time constraint. Why do I speak quickly? Sorry, it's habit. Because we have time constraint. We need to fit in like 10 analysis only in like 7 minutes. That's why we are racing with time. That's so in order to habituate yourself, practice listening. So you listen, you watch the video while you are taking notes. It helps. And try to, vary in between accents. You see Indonesian debate video, you see international debate video in different type of circuits. It's going to give you more practice in facing different style and different type of a debater, so that you have a better ability to comprehend them, because it's on you. It's your responsibility to comprehend the debater. Second of all, you need to also learn about the debating system. The judges in debate parliamentary, they are supposed to be an expert of debating technicalities. What does it mean by debating technicalities? For example, you need to understand what is the role of the opening chief in BP. You need to understand how to say, or how to calculate whether or not closing team is derivative from the openings, for example. So it's require an education for you to understand that particular system and that particular structure. Most importantly, so that also you know what to do in the competition. You know who's speaking first, what is the speaking order. You also know that in BP we have conferring process, so you are prepared with the conferring. And if you are not chair, you don't like mistakenly fill in your ballot, because the only adjudicator filling it in the ballot is only the chair. Or in AP, for example, probably beforehand you only exposed to the BP debate. You think that there will be conferring, but in AP there is no conferring. Despite different circuit has different rule on that, but I'm not going to talk further about it. I'm going to talk more on the context of Indonesian debating circuit. In AP, you fill in your own ballot. So probably because in BP the only chair filling the ballot, all of a sudden you forget to fill in your own ballot. So understand and learn more about the debating system. It's better, just like any debater, before you enter something that is a very big competition for you to be accredited. For example, an UDC, or some of you want to be accredited in WUDC, that big scale of competitions. I think it will going to help for you to also join other competition before that, to practice the accreditation test, so that the very important accreditation competition you can already perform well. Third of all, what you need to do is the oral practice. It means how you structuralize your oral adjudication. I think it would be better if you have someone else evaluating you. It could be coach, it could be people within your English debating community, your fellow friends and whatnot, because some people probably are already really smart, or they already understand a debate, but in order to articulate that, translating it into a form of oral adjudication, it can be tricky. and it requires habituation. So practice the oral adjudication so that you will be better. Yeah, so you can perform better and whatnot. Lastly, for mattering preparation, ikro, read. You cannot, you will never survive in the debating circuit and in this sport if you do not read. You need to know the most updated information. Why? So that you can comprehend the discussion in the debate. If, let's say, the debate, for example, discussing about the symbol of feminist movement in India. Well, you never read anything about India, and the motion specifically stating about feminist movement symbol in India, it's you are going to be flabbergasted in listening to the debate. For example, you would probably not going to understand of the point saying. That's one, so that you don't get flabbergasted, so you can comprehend the flow of the debate, what is going on, what are people talking about, and etc. Number two, what also is why then mattering yourself is important, because as an adjudicator, your responsibility does not stop in judging the round, taking notes, giving OA, bye-bye, you go home. It's very important that one other responsibility of adjudicator after they are adjudicating is that you have a responsibility to give feedback to the debaters. So you need to probably be able to give contribution in terms of arguments for them or answering their questions and etc. That's why do mentoring. ICRO. Number three, I think just read. I mean, I don't see any harm in reading, and yeah, read the news. It's not a harm things for you. It's actually, for me personally, reading is fun. Or probably read the WhatsApp group and understand the instruction given by the article so that they don't get frustrated by the end one. So ikro bismillah bikalazi holak. Ikro, guys, read and read and read. Next, now that you already have a preparations, I intentionally arrange my slide onto like step-by-step process. I like to think that way, a step-by-step process type of thing. After you finish prepping, boom, 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 suddenly NUDC come, you are starting your first accreditation, you are entering the one round, you either become trainee, panel, or chair. What type of mindset should you enter in this round? An average reasonable voter. What does this translate into? It translates into you have a possession of basic information in regard of recent global issues accessible in general media. For example, you will know that the leader of North Korea right now is Kim Jong-un, not Kim Yon-ah. I don't even know who Kim Yon-ah is. So that's an openly accessible information in the media. But there are also, you know, a borderline between a specific issue and also the global issues, such as, for example, is knowing that the Scandinavian country, a welfare country, a global information accessible in media, or is it a specific issues? It's a global information. So country system, just because probably you do not know who Bolsonaro is, it does not mean that it's not in the news. Everyone know who Bolsonaro is. If you read the news, if you update yourself. So just because the information deploying by the speaker is something that you don't know, it doesn't mean it's not a recent global issues. What is that specific knowledge? For example, the knowledge or the motion debated, it talks about amnesty, the United Nations will going to punish Israel due to its hazardous weapon, its bio weapon. The specific knowledge on the motion, it's going to be whenever people throwing out how the phosphor gas, what does the phosphor gas do, why then for phosphor gas is really bad in the future, it leaves traces to the surrounding environment. That is specific knowledge, so you might not know that, and it's okay for you to not know that. It's a very specific issue. Only people who like to read a specific matter who are going to understand that. But just because you only know the recent global issues, but you must be able to assert basic logical questions and have the ability to digest complex concepts when it is being introduced to you. You might not know in depth about the military, what is the different role between Marine, soldier, army, and special forces. But if the speaker talks how special forces focuses on a certain subject matter, the limitation of effort, the line of command, the extent of responsibility, you have the ability to digest and willingness to accept that complex concept. Ability to digest, but not to step in. So you must not fill in the blanks for the debaters just because, yeah, they're almost there. I think it's only a little bit, just added a little bit. No. It's if you really think that the debaters' analysis is close to explaining whatever is the burden of the motion, just take notes of what they are saying, and upon giving them feedback, tell them later when they ask for feedback. But you do not fill in the gap of it's almost probably I can like they already answer my question, but it's your own question, not the burden of the debate, for example. Number 4, you are willingly persuaded by either side. It translated into detaching yourself from personal preferences, including but not limited to religious beliefs, political affiliations, your own taste or style of a speaker, or your own taste or style of a type of argument. For example, you are a hardcore believer that an argument must be a good argument, must be a practical argument, and then a speaker bringing a principal point despite having a holistic step-by-step analysis, giving multiple examples, giving an extensive conceptions and everything. You are still not buying it just because, well, it's not a practical argument. It does not have any impact. I personally value and think practical argument is important. Let their opponent to say that you shouldn't. So even aside from religious beliefs, political affiliations, but also your own taste or your own style of how do you see or how do you value a team's point or a team's analysis shouldn't be the basis of your judging. Or the common style is either first rebuttals, then explaining the arguments, or an integration between rebuttals and also arguments and intertwining point. But there are also recent trend that speakers started off with their substantive or extension first and rebut later. This is also talking about taste or style. Just because people have different style in delivering their point, the speaker started off with their arguments and rebut later, you cannot also penalize this person just because they have a different style of delivery or they have a different style of structure than what you are bringing. So it's detach your own personal preferences in as many fields as possible. Number 5, you are not a coach. So adjudicate the debate that happens, not the one you think should have happened. Just because the prop team does not bring an argument that you think best fit to answer the burden of proof of the debate. It's not an automatic lose for them. That's one. Second, it does not mean that they have a low score. You need to adjudicate the debate as it happened. You value the reasoning provided by the speaker, irrespective of whichever directions they use, and especially if it's not being pointed out by their opponent. But just because it is being pointed out, again, there never is an automatic lose, automatic fault. Nothing is automatic. Even Indomie, you need 3 minutes to make, right? I can immediately eat Indomie right from the package. But yeah, no, nonetheless, okay. I'm just rebutting myself. Okay, so you're not a coach. Don't expect no automatic win or lose. Sixth of all, you are also not the debater on the round, even if sometimes adjudicating can be boring. No, just kidding. Adjudicating is not boring. Adjudicating is fun. You get paid. Ha ha ha. Okay, you are not the debater in the round. Meaning, whenever you take notes, you are not supposed to rebut the debater. That's one. Second of all, you should not overvalue a speaker just because they are bringing a point you think you will bring in the debate. You are not the debater. You shouldn't be the one rebutting the speaker in the round. So detach that. You are here as an observer, an average reasonable voter. But even though you are an average reasonable voter, you are the expert on debating rules. This quote, I derived it from the WDC judging manual. Teams win debates by being persuasive with respect to the verdicts their side of the debate is attempting to prove, within the constraints set by the rules of BP debating. So it loosely translated into persuasiveness indeed is the main thing in parliamentary debating, because parliamentary debating is also public speaking. This is what everyone should remember. I know that in the beginning, I speak about try to comprehending the speaker, but you should also draw the line. You should also be able to have a judgment call when a speaker speaking incomprehensively. Either the speed is just not humanly possible for other people to understand, or it's not persuasive because they don't have a strict structure. It's just a continuation of sentences without like giving a signposting or a flag out what are they talking about. So it's okay to have a judgment call on an incomprehensibleness, but just make sure that you are fair and it is not on the basis of accents, on the basis of a different style, or not, just because you've never seen a debater speaking before, just because they speak quickly, then you dismiss altogether. But yes, persuasiveness matter. BP is a public speaking, so it's your job to comprehend the debater and take note, but this is also a job of the debater to persuade you. Now, this translated into, just because BP is a public speaking competition, a competition about persuasiveness, but you cannot just do anything and everything in order to persuade the adjudicator in adjudicating you. Two, one could stand up in the debate and be persuasive about anything, but this will not help to win the debate unless it's relevant to the burden teams are seeking to prove. So it translates into that. Number two, the rules of debating constrain legitimate ways to be persuasive. The example given is that opposition whip could be bringing an entirely new point. The point is very interesting. The point is really, really good. But the rules prohibit this. So the element of speech can only help a team win a round if they are both persuasive and within the rules. I'm not saying that an opposite, this does not translate into opposition whip shouldn't be persuasive. Opposition whip supposed to be persuasive too, but make sure that the opposition whip follow the rules in regard of bringing new points, what type of points that are allowed to be brought by the opposition whip, because if we let opposition whip do anything and everything, no. If we let everyone do anything and everything, it's pretty much is a shipwreck. So the rules and regulations are there in order to make sure. I really like to call debate as a sport because it is a sport. The rules are there in order to make sure that the sport is being held and executed as fairly as possible. So what you shouldn't do, you can read it, blah, blah, blah. Now on to several points I want to highlight. Role fulfillment is not a thing anymore. And I think this is very important because sometimes when I become chair and I met trainees or trainees most of the time, not panels, some trainees still consider, and even not only consider though, it becomes their determining point whenever they judge a team. Basically, for example, in BP, they said OG is supposed to be fourth because OG failed in creating a definition. No. Role fulfillment is not a thing anymore. It's about persuasiveness. Okay, probably OG did not bring the definition, but what about their analysis? Or what about their identification of problem? Is their identification of problem correct? Or is their identification of problem persuasive? Is their arguments and contributions matter in the debate? Does it become a significant discussion of the debate? So role fulfillment is not a thing anymore. Unless the competition stated otherwise. Some competition are very technical heavy. So role fulfillment is very strict. Like each speaker must bring what if the case is not concluded in the first speaker, for example, in only being cleared up in the second speaker, and there is an automatic cutting of their points, the decreasing of points, because it's considered as a hung case or a role fulfillment that is not executed well by the prime minister, for example. So unless the competition said otherwise, please don't mind the role fulfillment as long as they are persuasive. Persuasiveness is content based, not duration based. This sometimes happens, like either coach or observer or whatnot complaining to the adjudicator, saying that the kids that they are coaching speak clearly for 7 minutes, it's fulfilling the timing, while their opponent who only speaks for like 5 or 6 minutes, why and it's under time, why then the opponent wins? Because the adjudicator does not judge based on timing. It's not an endurance test of the longer is the winner, but it's a matter of content. The 5-minute speaker bringing all important points within that 5-minute speech can still win against a repetitive 7-minute speaker or a speaker that within 7 minutes either a random silence or whatnot. So if you're done, just stop speaking. It's okay. You do not have to wait till 7:20, 8:20, or 7 minutes. And if you go under time, the adjudicator will not going to cut your score just on the basis of timing. What we consider is your content. Yeah, it implies usually if you have that much point, you will speak for 7 minutes. I mean, you'll see some speakers speaking over time, for example, because they have that many points, and safe to say, obviously, their speaker score is going to be high because they have a lot of contribution being delivered throughout their speech. But the metric of score is not because they're speaking 7 minutes, 20 seconds, not because they're speaking 7 minutes, or they're speaking 6 minutes, but on the content. again, unless the competition stated otherwise. Some competition might penalize or might told you, an adjudicator, to penalize people speaking over or under time. Just be mindful. And the idea about involving in a parliamentary debating and joining its circuit is to have an open-minded and critical thinking. So just because you know this one set of rules does not mean that any other rules is wrong. Be mindful on the specific competitions that you are joining or that you are accredited at. For of all, valuing arguments differently, valuing arguments and rebuttals differently. No, no, no. They both are equally important. Specifically in BP, but probably in AP, arguments is also important. You cannot just, I mean, in AP, you cannot just deploy a mere rebuttals for the entirety of your speech. You also need to bring arguments. But in general, the value are supposed to be the same. How do they contribute to the debate? How did they perform, or how did they position in comparison to their opponents? Don't just compare the arguments, also compare the rebuttals, also compare the framing, also compare everything. So don't discriminate one point to another. Just because you think arguments is important doesn't mean other things are not. Fifth, always see a team's contribution as a whole and be comparative. This is also another experience I had when I'm chairing and I have panel. In the accreditation test, be it in accreditation test or in conferral, some adjudicators probably, I understand, probably they didn't know beforehand, and it's okay. It's okay not to know. What's not okay is not to learn. So it's okay if you don't know. But some trainee, they rank the speaker in comparison to ranking the team. For example, saying that prime minister speak better than the member of government speaks better than opposition whip speaks better than the deputy prime minister. So you do score individual, but deciding the ranking is not based on individual speaker. It's based on an entire team's contribution. So don't assess individual quality of points as in for the purpose of rank, as in this individual, you rank the individual, but you need to assess the individual quality of points in order to score them as a form of speaker score. Let's do. Woo, thumbs up. Okay, 3, follow the logical flow of the debate. You will going to see me saying, or the slide saying, no such thing as automatic lose 100 times probably in this slide. It translates into so many characterization or so many scenarios. No automatic win for a team you think already have a name or reputation within the debating world or whatnot. You see their performance. No automatic win. No automatic win for a speaker who speaks with an accent of the fluent native. Under that logic, I wouldn't survive Indonesian. I wouldn't survive debating circuit. I'm very medok. I don't have fluent speech. I thank my adjudicator then. Thank you for following me. Okay, so be comparative too, and most justifications of why they win. Focus on content, not manner, as stated. Assess POI2, and I add number 4. Pay attention on the judging seminars or briefings, because just because you probably is a reputable individual in a debating community, you judge everywhere, anywhere you're around, you are successful, you are famous, but debate is a dynamic sport. Some regulations might be updated. For example, in soccer, we didn't have VAR. We didn't have a technology to help us determining when is offside to be much more rigid and on point, identifying the offside and where the ball is. That's also apply in debating. Some regulations might be updated. That's one. It's a dynamic sport. Make sure that you update yourself. One of the biggest example is the new Warsaw scoring system used in used right now. It becomes the scoring standard for BP. It's very different with the previous BP standard. I know I'm a dino, I'm old, I know what happened in the past. So it's different. Keep yourself updated. That's one. Second of all, different debate competition might require you to do different things. That sounded wrong. Okay, so it's because of so many things. It's either the vision of the ORCOM, and we need to respect that, or it's the vision of the CAP. We need to respect that, especially when the CAP already prepared. This is speaking a curhat of a CAP. When a CAP already provided you with a specifically curated judging seminar, pay attention. Don't be a know-it-all. Don't, block yourself from new knowledge. It's you probably are good, but you don't know everything all the time. Most importantly, be respectable. What is the specific demand? So pay attention on the judging seminars, judging briefings, what is specifically required, what's new. Not only that you can judge better, but most importantly, you are adding new knowledge onto you. Again, what's the harm of adding new knowledge, right? So specific mindset and BP, I allocate one individual slide for BP. First of all, judges should not be so quick to dismiss closing extension as derivative, because extension, I'm going to talk about extensions later on, but in a nutshell, everything can be an extension. So a new line of argument probably is perfect and ideal, but we all know that the world is not perfect and ideal. If you need to really weigh in whether or not the closing really is mechanizing the opening, or that the closing is derivative from the opening, or that the benefit of opening, on the prerequisite for the benefit of opening can happen, existed in the closing. So do not just be so quick just because they are using similar wording to say that it is derivative, but also vice versa. Do not be so quick to judge if a closing themes bring new point just because they are using different wording, for example. Judge in its entirety of arguments, entirety of a theme. Number two, be prepared of conferral process. Set aside your ego. But first of all, what does preparing for conferral process mean? Preparing for conferral process means that you will have to discuss your decision because it's a consensus. It prepares your mind to discuss instead of enforcing your ideas. But on another hand, it prepares yourself with your notes, and if you want to advocate or you want to explain the decisions that you have. In BP, there will be a conferral process. The chair will going to moderate the conferral process. You will going to receive a question. Don't be shocked when you receive a question like, "Ooh, why is the chair asking me things?" No, it's their job. It's their job. But most importantly, as I said, set aside your ego. Check your ego in the door, because it's not about you. And we, the chair and the CAP, also don't score based on how many times you change your decision. I can bet you that all adjudicators adjudicating in BP have changed their decision one way or the other, one time or even more, and it's okay. It will not going to impact your accreditation score. What's going to impact your accreditation score from a position of a chair accrediting a trainee, what I want to see, what the chair want to see is your comprehension of the debate. Can you comprehend the debate well? And it's okay if you miss several points, as long as it is not like the most important point, or you don't like miss the whole debate. And it's also common. I can also miss several points. It's human. The adjudicator is still human, so it's okay to change your mind. But what I want to see is your comprehension of the debate, your fairness in imposing burden for either for the all teams in the round, and whether or not you able to explain and articulate the tipping point. What we're looking for mainly is tipping point. Where is the tipping point? What is your decisions and whatnot? That's what we need to look for. And if you change your decision, but this also goes the other way around, yeah. Don't like automatically or all of a sudden knowing that the chair's decision is different than you automatically change the decision on siding with the chair. No, we don't just see the decision, we see your we see how you defend or your justifications of that particular decision. Ballot is only filled by chair. I already talked about that. Now on a 3-on-3, it's a debate. It's an independent decision. Now, the difference with BP is that so the whip speakers cannot bring an entirely new point, but in AP sometimes it can, but there are terms and conditions. When and if it is flagged in the case division announced by the first speaker, even if so, the newness alone is not enough for you to discredit material of the third altogether. It's a judgment call again, so it's not an exact science. It's not that you are filling a form that did the upwhip bring new material? Yes. Score automatically 77. No, 67. No, it doesn't work like that. Judgment call. Think more critically about whether the material meets the definition of either responsiveness or new point, contributive. Think more critically. Ask yourself questions. A good response includes direct rebuttal, indirect analysis about an existing class. Sometimes the debater don't immediately directing their point toward the don't immediately directing their rebuttals toward the point of the opponents, but they bring it along in their arguments, they bring it along in their classes. It will going to help and it will going to add their speaker score if they flag it out. So my first extension is also going to rebut the point coming from opponent talking about this. It will help, but also don't dismiss it altogether. If that analysis managed to create a response and engagement toward other team's point, then count it as a response too. New context, characterization, example, and etc. Now, tracking the debate. Oh my God, I was afraid that my PPT will then go for like an hour, but I'm only in the 4th slide and it's already almost 8. Hold on a second, I need to drink. Tracking the debate. It's important for you to be diligent and focused. Do not distract yourself. Don't check your phone. Don't watch K-drama. Don't paint your nails, be focused, be diligent. Diligent as in the specific wording I choose is diligent because you really need to take notes of everything. Take notes of the point delivered by the speaker. Reason being are twofold. Number one, you need to reread and recheck your notes once the debate ends, be it AP or BP. Specifically in BP, your judging note taking, judging notes become even much more important because in BP you do conferral, right? You need to recheck your notes, comparing it with the other panelist notes and whatnot. So be diligent, taking notes. Don't distract yourself. Don't do anything else. But don't forget to breathe. It's okay for you to breathe or like drink water. I think that's important. It's related to, you know, like human basic needs. Yeah. Again, take it with a grain of salt, what I said. Number two, do write what is actually said. So verbatim. It then becomes very important because number one, it's going to protect you from filling the gap, because if you rephrase, there is a possibility that you are going to fill in the gap in the rephrasing. So try to write it verbatimly. Number two, so that when you give OA, you can use their specific wording. It helps so that the debaters listening to your OA, it's going to be much more persuasive. They will going to understand it better, and it will going to appear as if you really do take notes of what happened throughout the debate. So write it down verbatimly. Number two, it also going to be helpful for your, you know, conferral process. Three, in giving feedback. So try as best as you can. I know speaker speaking very quickly. It's hard to take notes that quickly. Find a method that suits you better. I personally type faster than I write. So thank God in this era of online competition, I always usually type my notes, which also make me have lots of folders of my previous judging notes. Yeah. Oh, okay. I hope everyone I've judged before don't hear that. They might ask me for feedback. No, thank you. I'm busy. Okay. So number two, make sure you track everything. Engagement, responses, arguments, framing, who said what, where. So be diligent, be focused, be detailed. Assessing the debate, I'm going to talk about 4 things here. There are contradictions somewhere. I forget to write, but I think I count contradiction as part of the content. Motion relevance, you guys get it a lot through the NUDC CAP. See the keywords I note down. For example, in this house would require all defendants in criminal cases to be represented only by state-provided lawyers. 2 very important keywords. First, all defendant. It means that the Gov team cannot just say that only the financially incapable defendants will going to be represented by state-provided lawyers. They cannot get away with that. So all defendants is a very important metric in the analysis of the debate. That also goes to the op team. So how do op team attack that? 2 different approach that equally valid. It depends on the strategy of the op team. Either the op team says that we do not want all defendants. We only want what happened in status quo right now. We are giving a state-provided lawyers only for people with no financial ability to afford lawyers. Or they can go to entirely new direction in which that state shouldn't provide lawyers altogether at all. It depends on their strategy, whatever they want. But this keyword is important, although I personally will not go into that direction that no defendants will be given state-provided lawyers. But again, people have different style. Yeah, who am I to judge? Number 2, state-provided lawyers. Who am I to judge? Lu adjudicator, ya lanjut. Okay, state provided lawyers. It also becomes very important to translate what does state provided lawyers is, the assurance of quality, for example, the metric of appointment, and etc. Keywords. Two things though. Number one, always see the motion in its entirety. So for example, just because the motion started with THBT, this house believed that, don't just see how the motion started. See the motion in its entirety, and translate it and see what is the relevance, what is the main question of the debate. Number four, be open to accept a team's interpretation. So just because, for example, the motion is this house regrets, in which that you need to compare an alternative history or an alternative world and universe, but the team entering the debate, they want to give an alternate reality. Don't quickly dismiss that. Or if a team in a THR motion comes saying that this is a value judgment motion, don't dismiss that so quickly. Remember, no automatic fort, no automatic win, no automatic lose. As long as the interpretation comes with justifications, be open to accept it, because they give their justifications. See their arguments also. See how they engage toward another team. Compare them to another team. So just because we gave you that certain motions require this and that, it's not a hard science. You judge the debate case per case, room per room, motion per motion. Next, in terms of content, three things that you need to see from the debaters. Number one, persuasiveness. Persuasiveness rooted from the possible reasonings. So what does it mean? It means that there are analysis. Persuasiveness of an argument is the combination of both analysis and the style or manner. But note, manner here is not the accent, but more on the clarity and rhetorical power. Does the speaker make you believe in them because you manage to comprehend and see their line of logic, and you can follow the line of logic? It's an analysis that makes sense for you, or at the very least an analysis that you see the flow of analysis, so it's a persuasive. So it's not about the accent, it's not about the halo effect. Some dino can also perform badly. We're not like they are not a dino. They're not like perfect. So don't see persuasiveness other than analysis and the combination of clarity. Also not about the English accent, whatever that accent sounded like. Or if you think the debater is cute, you don't add their speaker score, add them on Instagram. Okay, so reasoning. 5 things that you can see in the reasoning. Either presenting empirical evidence for an argument, mechanistic links for why a certain outcome will come about, or the likelihood analysis, identifying widely shared moral intuitions in favor of an argument, a principle analysis, principle justifications can fly if the speaker managed to explain to whom does this moral principle important, and that it has to be upheld. So it's not that principle analysis cannot fly, but you need to explain the significance of the principle analysis by explaining why is it the widely shared moral intuitions. Fourthly, exposing a damaging logical implications of contrasting arguments from the opening, identifying an emotive response that encourages us to care about a certain outcome. probably talking about the characteristic of certain actor, bringing us into like a general notion of this is a debate about humanity. This is a debate about individual struggle. This is a debate about freedom of expression, for example. It can be a combination of, I don't think a speaker, but I don't know, like do the challenge. If you can include all five, bravo, give me the videos, show me. But it can be a combination or one or the other, but this is an example, but this is the portrayal of a good reasoning can be varied. It's not one set fits all. Number two, what are the variations of good reasoning? What you need to see. If the speaker speaking about a solution of a problem, then the point B becomes important. Mechanistic link of the outcome that will come about out of the solutions they are proposing or that they are promising. So it's going to be different judgment call from you, the understanding. There are 5 different variations. Feel free if you want to add. Again, this is a dynamic sport. Some changes in regulations in the future might accrue. Some different mindset of some new philosophy probably get out there. So, but at the very least, that's an example for now. Number 3, end goal of that content. Did it achieve the expected outcome? The difference with the point B specifically talking about solution of a problem, or talking about, so if the United States lift the sanctions out of North Korea will going to be more cooperative, for example. So that's a practical analysis explaining the explaining a certain outcome. But what I meant by number 3 is an end goal of each argument. So I know each point. For example, if there is a rebuttal points, the debaters flag it out as a rebuttal points. You need to see. You need to judge and value whether or not the rebuttals meet the end goal expected. Meet the end goal expected out of that rebuttals. Is it to rebut a point? Is it to prove an urgency, or whatever is the end goal? The speaker, either they claim that it is an end goal of their arguments or points they are delivering. This is a rebuttal toward the point of mechanism brought by the opponent. They need to explain the likelihood, and so you need to see whether or not they achieve that end goal. Number 4, compare. It goes for all type of debate. Compare. If you give a burden of likelihood and practicality for the government team, you need to also give similar burden to the other team. If you value framing in one team, you think that framing, as long as it's delivered with analysis, it makes sense, it filled in the gap and whatnot, you need to also value framing in the other team. So compare, be fair. Compare, be fair. It rhymes. Yeah. Okay. Engagement. Engagement, all one of the example of engagement is responses. Rebuttals consist, it's blah blah blah. You can read it out of either of these 5. It can be combined. It can be independent. You can combine 3 out of these 5. The debaters can combine 3 out of these 5 and whatnot. But engagement also exists in a spectrum. Spectrum of what? Either one, a spectrum of how you value that rebuttals. Obviously, a rebuttal that completely destroys the opponent points get a bigger score. But this also is a spectrum of strategy. For example, probably the team's approach is starting by invalidating their opponent's point, mitigating their arguments, and then later on completely destroying. So it can be using to optics in saying this, for example, just in case debaters is watching this, yeah, whatever it is. I don't know what I'm doing either. Okay, so you can use that as a part of a strategy. But again, just because a speaker label their speech as such doesn't mean it is. Just because a speaker say that, okay, so I have 3-point rebuttals. First of all, I'm going to rebut the point coming from the government this. The label alone is not an enough justification for them to say they already deliver it. So just because they say rebuttals, probably they think it's they already deploy rebuttals, but the rebuttal is only invalidating or opponent's points. For example, it has different value with completely destroying the analysis provided by the opponent. So that's why it's called it's in the spectrum. POIs. For AP, I think POIs is also important, but probably is not going to be strictly enforced as what happened in WDC and NUDC, but which is why I don't like make a specific slide of BP and also AP, because I think I personally like to give POI and to receive POI because I don't understand why wouldn't you want to POI your opponent. I never don't want to POI my opponent. I always deploy POI. But on the other hand, me receiving POI is also important because not only sometimes the opening teams want to accept closing POI in order to, anticipate it. I mean, it's a general knowledge. It's no secret for anyone whatsoever. But for me, accepting POI, it's also is a direct critique and evaluation of my point that I will going to understand, or I can see, oh, okay, so when I get POI in this part, meaning that I have a missing analysis there. So I like to accept POI because I then immediately know and aware that my point is missing a link. And then later in the next competition, nobody want to POI me. Okay, POI me, please. Give me a clue what I missed in my explanation. Not taking a POI can affect the outcome. This also works for both AP and BP, including but not limited to lowering your speaker score. The logic is this: if you don't accept POI, what happens is it means that you don't open an engagement if you are in BP, and it's unfair. So it may lower your speaker score, or it can also flip a close call. For example, be it in BP or AP, if one team is more willing to accept a POI and then answer it successfully, and the other within contention of between one or two is in a very close call, adjudicator will obviously choose a team that is more responsive, because POI also can have a similar value as rebuttals or arguments. It contributing something on the debate. So remember, what we value is your contribution in whatever form that is. Wait, that may come out wrong. Your contribution must be either argument, rebuttals, other type of contributions, like suddenly you are singing in the round, we would like it, but it doesn't give you like a better speaker score, or giving pantun or jokes. Yeah. Okay. Or other type of contribution. So contributions, POI also count as contributions in the round. Especially POI becomes very important when it's a situation where three things between teams on diagonals. For example, opposition whip explains something in a new way that you haven't been rebutted, or that nobody ever get a chance to rebut it. When opening teams are shut out of POIs, for example, obviously judge also have to have the judgment call. It wouldn't be unfair if the opening teams cannot rebut the closing, and especially if they offer like 20, 30 POIs. 30 kayaknya impossible deh. Like extensive POI, but still not nobody is receiving their POI, so it's unfair. Again, this is a sport. You need to be fair, fair play. That's also is one of the solution to ensure that this sport. Sorry, I get tickled by my own hair. What was I was sorry. What was I saying? Okay. Yeah, that's why POI is important to also ensure fairness. Now, in a situation explained beforehand, in a chance that a team is shut out of response or engagement or POIs, judge then are forced to perform some more independent assessment. Or if there was missing of rebuttals or engagement or whatnot. So the calculations, this is also why debaters, we judges upon giving feedback, we say engagement is important. And as a coach, me personally always tell my kids that you need to rebut, you need to engage, or else you are going to be under the mercy of your adjudicator. Your adjudicator will going to have a judgment call on assessing which arguments that not only the most important, so it's not just about the importance of the arguments and contributions, but then also what is clearly proven and more viable by the adjudicator. Argument that requires the judge to make numerous logical leaps, kebalik. What I meant is well-reasoned arguments that rest on fewer unsubstantiated assumption is actually better than have to take numerous logical leaps. Sorry, brain is kebalik, so the slide is also kebalik. Okay, next. Contradictions. A contradiction is explicitly stating, you can read it, what it is not. This clarification and definition of what contradiction is and what contradiction is not is to avoid adjudicator, you when you are judging, to unduly punish a speaker for misspeaking or saying something otherwise inconsequential. You need to be able to distinguish between a slip of a tongue or entirely different position you are taking from your, an entirely different position the speaker is taking from their teammate, for example. So do not quickly judge contradiction. The title and the motto here is do not quickly judge anything and everything. So analyze it, compare it. Contradictions within the same team. How do you value it? Teams cannot be credited for two mutually exclusive mutually exclusive claims, meaning that a claim that cannot stand together, so mutually exclusive. You with your ex-boyfriend, for example, that's mutually exclusive, or else you still have some side game on the, yeah, whatever. Okay, what happened? What should you do in case that happens? You may only credit the first claim they have advanced. But this only when contradiction happens, you it only invalidate the team doing so a little bit, not an automatic losing, but it also is not an automatic reward provided to the their opponent unless their opponent point it out. So they will only get credit, they will only get reward, and they will going to elevate their validity of stance and position only if they point out. Within the same bench, if the arguments now again contradict here, it's a judgment call, right? It's a case per case basis, but based on the WUDC judging briefing, if the closing team directly contradict the opening teams, it should just be ignored by the judge. It's as if they're not saying nothing at all. But me personally, as per my style, it's a judgment call, because sometimes closing team, when the opening probably misunderstood the debate or misdirecting the debate, closing then have no place to go, right? Or in which that they have to contradict in some way the opening, or else they will not going to be able to win. So it's a judgment call, case per case situation. Specific content in BP things. First of all, the meta debate of BP, which is framing. You need to value framing, but make sure that you are imposing the same logical burden for each team who give framing. Again, not an automatic win for team who all of a sudden start their speech by saying, so I will going to give the framing of the debate. Judge and value whatever they are saying after they say the label, not the label. Number two, don't hesitate to give credits to team or speakers who manage to help you in understanding the key metrics used in the debate, like what is the main issues, who's supposed to win the round, if it's valid, yeah. Again, not just the label. Extension, as I said earlier, I'm going to talk about extension here. New string of words, any new lines of arguments, continued arguments from the opening, but with different extent of elaborations and conclusion, new examples, new context, new responses. As long as it's new, you can count it as extension. The way you do it is to compare between the contributions, the weighing, the value, and also between the opening and also the closing. B, originality is not a metric. I mean, if it's a metric, I can just finish the slide. Not some are original, some are for me, but even that I get from somewhere else, experience or knowledge I garner somewhere and whatnot. Also in a debate, originality is not a metric. They may operate under the principles of the opening. The comparison that you need to do, which team explain their analysis better, framing of which one is more crucial, relevance of the response to the arguments and the motions. So those what you need to value. Not all of a sudden, oh, this is derivative. This is not original, derivative. Don't quickly judge. Assessing the debate, replies. This is for AP, obviously, because there is no replies in BP. Number one, don't zone out. This is a very bad habit of AP judges. I know you are out there somewhere, irresponsible AP judges. Still listen to replies thoroughly, because in a tight debate, replies can change anything and everything. Even if the debate is not tight, be respectful. Take notes. You still have to score the reply speakers anyway. Or it will also going to help, reconfirm what you take notes upon beforehand throughout the debate. What a good reply. Two things. Number one, clarity. What the adjudicator want to see and need to see whether or not the reply is clear. I'm not just talking about structure, but and I'm also not just talking about the manner, but I'm talking about whether or not the reply managed to untangle previous deadlock, can collect or can tidying up messy points, messy debates that going on beforehand. Number two, good reply will going to be able to help the judge see the classes and metrics to judge. What not to be delivered in replies and what the adjudicator need to pay attention on. Reply cannot bring an entirely new things. For example, you are the golf reply and you insert a rebuttal for upwhip in your reply. No, that cannot be done. Noted out as inserting a rebuttal for upwhip. So it cannot be valued. Whips. It can be BP and AP. Not allowed to run completely new arguments because no one can respond. But yes, you can give new examples. Obviously, you can give new rebuttals because you need to rebut speaker before you, but not an entirely completely new line of analysis. You can extend the analysis of your members or your deputies if it is APs, but not a completely new arguments. I already explained. UP put these notes in an UDC. Watch out for a rebuttal that is actually just a sneaked in substantive. Oops. Okay. If a web speaker brings new material, they should not be penalized. So even though like there is a rules that whips so then bring new matter, it does not then make you cut their point or decrease their point, just treat it as if they said nothing at all. When you say that, yeah, I know I'm bound to do that. Okay, scoring. Again, NUDC judges, thank you so much. At NUDC CAP, I love you. Akbar, Judy, Devi, Jane, Upi, thank you very much for helping me with this. This is like a direct skin shooting of their scoring. I'm sorry. So BP using an EUDC Astana 2020 standard. There are a floor range. I'm going to help you guys to translate, but most importantly, basically follow through with this. This also is already helpful. The scoring standard. Again, don't, if you've been adjudicating before, don't stick into your mindset. I was actually wanting to, like a test run, showing a speaker speech and then scoring them, but I already speak for an hour and a half. There is another more important, scoring. Now this oral educations, I think this is very important. And this is the last part of my slide. Wait. Oral adjudications, how to please the debaters with your decision. Pun intended. Online chairing, you can read. What I think the most important here is number one, the manner and behavior in online debating. As a debater myself, it's super annoying if you unmute yourself all of a sudden. So I think this is the common sense, but sadly it's not that common. So be mannerful, and as a chair in the room, you have the authority to do that. Remind the adjudicator to be respectful, one of which is respecting the preference of POI, and when they don't say what their preference is, make sure that the default is through chat, because it's talking about manner. Online debate is probably not that different, although it is very different, but it has some differing characteristic criteria and also feature with the offline debating. So yeah, don't bring that barraging type of behavior. POI through chat as default unless stated otherwise by the speaker. Mic check, and connection, audibility, don't forget to do that. And also another second manner that's also is important. When you drop, don't wait for other people to look for you. Let us know, be it whether you are an adjudicator, you are a debater, do not wait until people look for you until you get tagged, but contact right away, at the very least to your teammate, or if you're a chair, contact the CAP or COM right away, or your adjudicators, I mean. So be wary of that connection issue, and feel free. I think it's don't be sungkan lah. I don't know what is the English of sungkan. Don't be sungkan if you have a bad internet connection to request the people in the Zoom room, specifically in your breakout room, for example, to turn off their video. It's okay as long as you are doing it politely, yeah. Not like, whoa, turn off your video, I don't want to see your face. No. That's equity violation. So do it nicely, explain your reasoning. It's okay, as long as the debate can run well. But on the other way around, it's not an obligatory, but since I have this avenue, I personally would prefer that in an online debate, people opening up their camera, video, right? I mean, it's bad enough that we can't meet, we can't go out, and when there is a debate round, we can't see our opponent, who sometimes are our friends, who we want to hang out with. So when your connection allow, do open your camera, meet out. Like, let's pretend as long as we can that the online debate is similar with an offline debate. Again, it's not a requirement, it's a personal statement, because I have this avenue. So yeah, if and when you can open your camera, see your friends, hang out, chat, I think that will at the very least return a little bit of another benefit of having a weekend debate competition. I miss that. I don't know. Do you guys miss it? I really miss it. Oh yeah. Okay. So online Define conferring. Again, the concept of conferring pretty much principally similar. Chair, you act as a moderator. Obviously, you may first take 1 to 2 minutes to consult your notes, and it's okay. It's okay before you decide you go ask this. Or the easiest, you probably give your panelists or also trainees time. It vary in different competition. You need to go check on that with the RCOM or tournament director. How many times do you have for conferring, and distribute it wisely. I personally usually give like around 2 to 5 minutes for my panelists to have their decision. The decision again does not have to be an exact ranking. It could be certain benches, or you can say that first rank, I'm sure about my first rank, other I'm not sure yet. It's okay, don't wait until everyone is sure, because you need to discuss anyway. Be topical, stick to precise 2 teams comparisons at a time, and once you're done, you move to the other team of comparison, identify key point, don't go off track. If you think of something new or some analysis, write it down lah. Don't make the discussion altogether get off track. Conferral mindset. It's an exchange of thought, not another debating arena. So as much as possible, consensus. Check your ego on the door. Constantly listen, be genuinely interested to anyone and everyone. Even if you are chair, do not be so arrogant that you do not want to listen to your trainee. Or if you are panelists, also listen to the trainee, and or the other way around, trainee listen to the chair. Sometimes chair already asked you a question, you are not focused or you were not listening, you ask the chair to repeat the question. So listen, be genuinely interested to anyone and everyone who has or is saying something. Do not let panel ranking activate your bias, or your own ranking to activate your bias, because even trainees can provide great insights as similarly as chairs can, although it's uncommon. But it is possible. The point is listen, be open-minded, check your ego on the door. When you disagree, it's a conferring. Don't use statement. Ask question. Be genuine. The keyword is be genuine. Be genuine in disagreement, as if, okay, I see the debate differently with the way you see it. Can you explain further your point in this? Probably I miss it. So be as genuine as possible. Chair doesn't mean you are always right 100%. Panels and trainees doesn't mean that you cannot be more right than your chair. So be genuine, be open to discussion. Missing certain thing is common. How helpful you are in the conferral, it means that how much you are contributing to the discussions will going to be part of your assessment. So make sure you are in a moderated portion of being contributive and being rude, like someone else talking, or you always want to have your own turn in speaking during conferral. No, baby, take your ego on the door. Trust me, the chair already calculating and take notes of everyone's contributions. If you're good, you're good. Your chair will going to score you good lah. Don't worry. Okay. Next, oral adjudication. Pay attention on time. Avoid spending too much attention and time for general comments. You're not a coach. You're an adjudicator. What the debater would like to hear is the ranking, and that's your responsibility. Your responsibility is on providing the ranking. Make a clear comparison, explaining specifically on the tipping point. Don't just repeat what the debater said. In terms of the structure, I already started in the beginning. I already explained. It depends on your style. You want to start with first, with fourth, chronological, whatever, as long as it's clear, as long as it explains the tipping point. Avoid constructive feedback, especially if you intend to give constructive feedback as either one in marketing so that the kids want to coach you. If you're good lah. The kids will going to know your name. Or second of all, it's to, smoothing up the blow, or another alternative if you don't have confidence of your OA, and you don't have a good comparison of tipping point, you try to buy the heart of the debater by giving more and more constructive feedback. No, don't do that. Foul play. Your responsibility is for tipping point feedback later after the round. Your decision matter to the debaters and your own final accreditation. This is every time the kids I coach, specifically coaching in terms of judging, and they ask me what is a good judging and whatnot, I tell them, judge the way you want to be adjudicated. Put your shoes in when you are a debater. What do you expect from your judge? Be that kind of judge. Be the kind of judge you expect to be. Not the part where you give the winning all the time. No. But in the time that you lose, or whenever you perform in a debate, how fair do you want your judge be? So be that kind of judge. Be a fair judge. Be a clear judge. Be a responsible and respectful judge. So judge the way you want to be adjudicated. Now, standard aims. I'm going to talk and dissect the way we score accreditation. 10 is the chair level, chairing in out-round type of quality or type of standard. This for people who try to get into an accreditation test, although it's not supposed to be the end goal, you need to have the accuracy, whether or not your decision is correct. How to determine the accuracy is obviously through the comparison. See what I already said, motion relevance and whatnot. This is what I meant by beyond the accreditation test. So if you have a good accuracy, it's not only that you get an A accreditation, but people will know that you are a good judge, irrespective of where institution you come from. If you're a good judge, you're a good judge. But passing an accreditation alone probably is not enough. You get a good score in this accreditation test and whatnot, but you don't maintain integrity, it's also not important. So maintain that integrity. Be a fair judge. Be in terms of accuracy. Be responsible in reasoning. You give the reasoning, well-justified reasoning, explicit identification, insightful nuance. You see all the team's contribution and value it fairly. And then in a discussion, provide a good quality of contributions, not quantity, but the quality, highly efficient. Even when you need to explain too long, it means that you're not efficient, right? Or it means that you cannot simplify your reasoning, right? So this, if you know the score of how we accredited the accrediting adjudicator. 9 and 8 are excellent and very good. Where do we usually determine? You can read it later. On the assessment of close comparisons, the ability, but in reasoning, probably in terms of accuracy, it's a very thin thread between 9 and 8. But on the justifications, the way you explain your reasoning and the insight that you give throughout the discussion, so it's a thin thread between 9 to 8. 7 is good. Usually I give usually the chair gives 7 or 6 to those who have a different call to us, and the closer it gets, it probably gets 7. But 6 is when the call is different, but the assessment and judgment can be accepted. For example, average, you guys can read it. I'm not going to talk below 4 because I, for some reason, expect and hope after you see these seminars, you can get at the very least 6. Yay! I think that's the end of my seminars. Oh my God, I speak for, yeah, that's all. Is there any questions? Going once?
We have several in the Slido. Okay. First, the easiest one. What is ORCOM or maybe CAP?
Oh, ORCOM is the organizing committee. Organizing committee means the people who help and deal with, the technicalities of the competitions. If we're talking about the online competitions, they're the one managing the registrations. They're the one probably needing to finding sponsors. They're the one curating the rundown, preparing the Zoom room. So it's the organizing committee. CIP, core adjudication panels, are those in charge with the debate substance matters. CIPs are in charge with how many rounds that can be fair, the motions being debated, the judgment call in terms of the competition, such as, for example, determining co-speaker or like which team breaks and whatnot. So the CAP is more the debate substance type of thing. Our com is more on the technical. Both are equally important. Respect CIP and our com equally. They're equally important. Yeah. Next question. Several banget nih Ren. Several banget.
Yeah, several banget. If the debate was a hard to judge debate, as in very good, ideally, how should we search tipping point of each benches? Thank you.
That actually is a very open-ended question. Yeah, a very, very hard debate. It goes in stages. Number one, you need to see the it depends. Yeah, it depends. If 4 are equally tied, you need to see the burden of the motions. What is the main burden of proof? But the easiest is obviously how do they respond to each other. Valuing a team better than the other, the easiest is on the response. So if the quality of analysis, the insights, the arguments are equally similar in like this similar level, but one team don't respond to the other or deploying ineffective response, that's your job to determine. So close call, if the closeness is between 2 teams, see how they respond to each other. But if it is between all the 4 teams, that it is very, very close, see the BOP. If they already explain all the BOP, see the direct engagement between each other. If you already see the direct engagement equally good, although I hardly think so, but if all the engagement are already that good, you value their contributions, you value the sophistication of the analysis, obviously assuming that all their arguments fly and you get persuaded and you can buy their arguments and analysis. Yeah, so then you goes to the level of sophistication of analysis, and you have to be prepared to value that. But I don't think that happens that oftenly. So I think safe to say, saying the relevance to the motion, burden of proof, and engagement between one another, I think it will suffice for you to get certain rounds. So yeah. Next question.
When is it justified to come with speakers' new materials?
When does it justify to count with new material? Several instances. First instances, if it is being flagged out by speaker speaking before them. For example, the Prime Minister of the AP team or the member speaker of the BP team explaining that my whip will going to bring this. Number two, if the speaker before them brings new point. So there are no options for the whip but to respond. It's their responsibility to respond. If it is a new point, they will have to bring that new point. I think that's the only scenario it's justified for the whip to bring new materials, specifically when you don't state what type of new materials. But I think those are the two scenarios when it's justified to be done. But again, I would like to repeat, there is no automatically lose, no automatic winning. So see holistically. Next.
Okay, I think this will be our last question because the questions are quite similar. So, is the judgment from the adjudicator bulat gitu? Can we rebut the judgment if we think we are judged not fairly?
Okay, that's actually is a very good question. Yes, it's you cannot argue, you cannot rebut. Although obviously you can ask questions, you can ask for feedback. What you can do if you think that if you disagree with your judge, first of all, ask yourself, step out of the debate and step out of your ego. Do you disagree with the adjudicator simply because you lose in that round, or because they don't provide you with a satisfactory or holistic reasoning justifications of why you lose? So I highly suggest to like step back a bit. It will help if you also, I don't know, record the OA or write down the OA, so not to immediately make a decision out of emotional because you lose the round. So ask yourself that. That's one. Second of all, if you no, it's the judge is wrong. Not that the judge is wrong as in making me lose, but the judge failed to give me a valid justification point, explaining to me clearly what is the tipping point, undervaluing my point while overvaluing my opponent's point. If you are sure with that, there are mechanisms to do so. Mechanism to do so is by whenever you join a competitions, you will be given the right to submit judge feedback. Do that. Use that tool. That is a tool of critics for the judges. If you think that quote to quote they are unsatisfactory. So for example, this is also going to be available to the debaters in order to rank the adjudicator. So if you think that the adjudicator are wildly inaccurate, the reasoning justifications, no attempt whatsoever for them to justify their reasoning, give them two. But again, as I said, do not use the emotion, but the judge decision is final. You cannot contest. There is no benefit whatsoever in being aggressively agitated to the adjudicator. More effective giving them feedback too, or like one. But be mindful that one is an official complaint. It means that you are banning as in you do not want to be adjudicated by the adjudicator in that competition. Ban does not go past competition. That's one. Second of all, unless there are personal like romantic relationship, or you come from the same institution, or you are being coached by one of the adjudicators, or the other way around, the debaters is the coach of the adjudicator. Sometimes that happens, the coach of that adjudicator, for example, you cannot do preemptive ban. Yeah, so give the benefit of the doubt. Don't blacklist all adjudicator altogether. So yeah, if you disagree or not satisfied, but if you really think it's that quote to quote concerning. So in a submit feedback form, usually there are 3 boxes that you need to fill. Number 1, the score toward that particular adjudicator if you ever join a competitions. Number 2, there will be a box asking you whether you agree or disagree with the adjudicator. And the last box is comment. So if you I think it will be best, and it's going to be very, very helpful for the CAP, especially when upon accreditations, if you also specify the reason why you give them 2 or 3 or 5 or 1, for example. So there are mechanisms for you to do it in a civilized manner and in a smart way. So that's the last question, right, Irene?
Yes, that would be the last question. Thank you, Mbak Astri, for sharing with us, for teaching us new things. Even I